Welcome to the second in a series of customer success speed demos that we're running here at Akita. These sessions are designed for those of us who don't have time for very long sessions that are maybe overly focused on branding and sales. And we're really going to focus on strategy, process, products, the kind of things that are going to help you do your job. So if you generally find yourself watching recorded webinars, speed it up. Hopefully this is for you. I'm going to be covering customer health scoring in this session. What are customer health scores? How do you build them? Should you build them? Hopefully diving into some areas you may not have previously considered. What is a customer health score? Generally, it's completely subjective, really, but I may add a little bit of objectivity today. There are potentially as many definitions of customer health scores as there are companies building them, but ultimately they're just a shorthand to tell you something about your customers, right? Something you need to know. Score models can vary from being a sum of weighted components from many sources of data, delivering a live or close to live understanding of how your customer is performing at any given time. So quite complex, all the way through to a simple traffic light intuition score, maybe captured by an agent or a CSM. Do you need a customer health score? Well, generally yes. Generally they're very powerful and effective, but maybe you don't. In your case, perhaps you have a very simple solution and a deep relationship with your customers, and where a deep data type based score would be redundant. Or maybe you only require a kind of score that's a single indicative metric that can serve as like a proxy for customer health. Maybe like an intuition score or just whatever your North Star metric might be. Now, risk is also something to consider, so it's rarely mentioned, but there are inherent risks associated with relying on a health score. They can be very powerful and effective, of course, but if you test them regularly, they can be. But if you misconfigure your health score, or it's out of date, or you get complacent and do rely on it, then you might be in for some unhappy customers, or even worse, maybe some unexpected churn. So if you attended our previous session on creating a 360 customer view, you'll recognize this slide, and it's a pretty comprehensive view of the types of data that customer success departments might have or use to help them understand their customers. And they can also use them to build customer health scores. They're generally data sources that are exogenous to whatever tool you're going to be managing your health scoring with. But there's certainly one element that you would likely capture within the tool, and that's the CSM intuition score, which is very important as well. And we'll mention this later. I have mentioned tooling a couple of times, and I'm trying to be as agnostic as possible, but if you do want any degree of complexity when it comes to building and applying a health score, you're going to need some form of dedicated software. Now, whether that's a customer success solution like Akita or some other tool built specifically for the purpose is up to you. But the challenge of centralizing multiple sources of data and modeling that data appropriately is a mammoth task if you don't have some form of dedicated tool. So a few things just to think about before we jump into maybe viewing a live environment. Weighting your health scores. So not all components of a health score are equal. An example could be your CSM intuition score. If you operate kind of in a high touch enterprise environment, your CSMs managing your clients, sort of having a deep relationship, they probably have a good intuitive understanding of how the accounts are in terms of health. So you'd probably want to apply a high weighting to how they feel about how the account is doing. But with other, if you run a more low touch model with a high volume of customers, the intuition score mightn't be as highly weighted. You might weight some other types of data within the health score. Timing or time frames is important as well when it comes to health scores. So recency bias is a good thing. In this case, we don't want to place a lot of value on events or attributes that don't have any relevance to the current or to future customer health. We definitely don't want our health scores compromised by lagging indicators. Segments, when I say segments, I guess I mean we don't want to apply the same logic to all, or you might not want to apply the same logic to all individuals, users or companies. Unless you have a very homogeneous user base that consumes your solution in a particular way, that would allow you to apply one type of health scoring model universally. But many companies, and most companies probably don't have that luxury. So, be it because they've got a modular offering, or they offer multiple plans with different feature sets, or you just want to track as well the health of users and or separate to accounts, then you might want to have multiple ways of measuring health. The last thing there on the screen is testing and maintenance. This is not a set and forget exercise. Okay, you're going to need to iterate at the start to get it right, and constantly test how well your scores are performing. Otherwise, they might work against you. Okay, so now let's take a look at how this all might apply in a live environment. I'm going to use our own platform, Akita, to demo to you how we can build and apply health scoring models. So I will jump over to that right now. Hopefully you can see that on screen. I will minimize myself a little bit so I'm not in the way. All right. So what I'm going to do is find, obviously there's a ton of features that we could jump into if this was a general demo, but it's not. So I'm going to go find the health scoring element first. You can actually see a health score represented through time here on this segment page. But I'm going to jump into our health scoring, our area where we actually build health scores. And there it is. Right. So I'll minimize this slider. What you'll see initially is that there's 3 different health scores here, and that's because you can build multiple health models and apply them to different types of customers. So I have 2 here for being applied to accounts, and 1 for power users in this case, but one type of user. And I have some in this page, some high-level metrics telling me what's happening with those particular health scores. Okay, what I'm going to do is jump into this account health score model so we can actually delve in a little bit and see what they're all about. There's 4 things that you do when you're building a health score, certainly in our platform. Give it a name, obviously. Included accounts, that just means you tell Akita in this case, you use our filters to tell Akita who this health score is going to apply to. Okay, if you're applying it to just one group, so you would say where plan is equal to enterprise or something, and then all enterprise customers would have this score applied. In this case, we're leaving it blank because this score is going to be applied to everybody. Then you have your components, which we're going to spend a bit of time in, and then your thresholds. So you tell Akita above what score is good and go below what score is good, because the range will be kind of unique. Components. All right, so you can see you have a bunch of components here. Now, what are components? You have so much data coming into this platform that you want to pick, the data points that will indicate to you, something about the customer's health, and you can add those into the health score and then give them a weighting, or something about them and give them a weighting. And I'll actually add one in a second and show you what it looks like or how we do it. But just to run through, give you an example of some of these here that I've outlined. But you can put really whatever you want in. But like, for example, if support tickets created is less than 20, maybe that's fantastic for you guys. Too many support tickets in your environment might be terrible. So you give that a heavy weighting if there's not very many tickets. If revenue growth, MRR growth is greater than 1,000 in the last 6 months, maybe that's great. You give it a +5. Equally, if the customer is logging in a lot, more than 10 in the last 30 days, again, we're going to give that a +5. If they've added more than a couple of licenses in the last quarter, give that a +1. And then, of course, you're going to have some negative elements as well that will tell you about your customers. If tickets created in the last 90 days is more than 30, that's bad, maybe. All the way down to here, if they haven't logged in 30 days, 0 logins in 30 days, that's a -10. Okay. But hopefully you get the impression, you get the idea. You can add in whatever you want, and give it a weighting. And then roll this up. It's all in real or close to real time, so the score is always live. Yeah. So how do we add these components, or what, how do we build them? If I click the new component button up here, what I'm going to do is use the intuition score, that I mentioned as an example. So this is a score that you capture, a traffic light score that you capture on the account record after you've spoken to or engaged with the customer in some way, just to give you, a sense of how you feel the health of the customer is progressing. So we call it the CSM score in Akita. I'm going to say where the CSM score is good. So if that's the case, well, maybe I trust my CSMs, and I know they have a really good relationship with their customers. I'm going to give that a heavy weighting. So plus 10 if the CSM score is good, and I hit submit. Now I have to tell Akita in this page, what does that mean? So I use our filters, and I'll just come down to our health score. I'll go to CSM score. Very powerful filtering engine in Akita, and flexible. So basically, I've navigated my way to through these screens to get to the CSM score, and I want to say where the CSM score is good, and I'll click done. So when the CSM score is good, they're going to get a plus 10 score. However, recency is important, so I actually don't care about health scores maybe from a year ago. I just want to count the ones from the last, say, 3 months. So I'll add another filter on top of this one, where it's CSM score last updated. And I say CSM score last updated occurred after, I'm going to say maybe in the last 3 months. So 3 months ago. All right. So lots of, we only apply the relevant modern scores. I click Save Changes, and now I can go back to my score model, and I'll see that sitting at the top being applied. Okay, so that's kind of how we build these scores and apply them. So let me just jump back and show you a couple of things, though. Maybe how what then, like what do you use health scores for? Well, you can build segments. You can use health scores as a way to identify customers that are in good health, or their health is changing or it's bad. And you can then apply, automations maybe to actions or interventions to those customers. So we could, for example, have a segment down here called Super Healthy Accounts. If I click into that, you'll see it's where I've applied a filter at the top called Overall Health Scores Greater than 10, right? So for all my customers who their health score is greater than 10, I have a segment, and I've added some columns in here to help me kind of understand these customers. And if I jump into one of the customers, you should hopefully see that there's a tag here, Super Healthy Accounts. I know they're in that segment, and I can see their health score is very positive. I can also see how their health score has been trending through time. I can change the time frame I'm looking at as well, and what the higher and lower scores are. So that's kind of how that works. Also, you can see that for if I jump into this segment, you can see I've created one already. For a particular segment, you can apply the health scoring or see how your health score is progressing through time as well. So this widget tells me that in this segment, these set of customers have had a big jump in health very recently. I'll see it was on December 20th. For some reason, it jumped significantly, and now it's gone from being a negative underneath the red into being neutral health score on average. Okay. All right, so that's kind of what I wanted to show you. So I'm going to jump right back to my deck. That's really a very quick snapshot into what health scores are and how they could be used and implemented in a CS platform. So if you're interested in finding out about our platform, have a look at the bottom of the screen there. You'll see my details are there. Feel free to reach out. If you'd rather not reach out to me for whatever reason, that's fine. Go to our website and you can find out more about the solution, and also register for a demo or even a free trial. We have a 14-day free trial option, so you can avail of that too. All right, thank you very much for joining this session, and I hope to speak to you all again soon.